entrepreneurs, families. I stand here to defend the European economy, our interests and our jobs. One certainty remains. Even in more challenging global trade environment, our economic ties have continued to grow. This resilience proves that transatlantic trade works. And if it works, we should strengthen it, not hold it back. In this geopolitical context, the United States is not only our largest trading partner, it is also a key security partner, and it must remain so. Even the democracy with which we seek to diversify our trade relations look to the United States as a key security ally. That remains the foundation of our broader strategic objective. Our history has proven that with the US on our sides, we defeated the most horrible totalitarian regimes, from Nazism and fascism in World War II to the fall of Berlin Wall and defeating the communism. For some people, the hell is the other people, as Sartre said. But only together we can defeat the enemy, regardless of what face it holds now. Thank you, colleagues, and I call upon of you to do this historic job and to support this trade deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker on behalf of the S&D Group, Ms. Van Brempt. Please take the floor.
Thank you very much, President, Commissioner, dear colleagues. Our group has made it crystal clear from the start. Turnberry is a bad deal, and it will not be just rubber-stamped by us. It does not bring stability. It does not protect us from tariffs, threats and coercion. And do I have to remind ourselves, just only this year and only March, the US threatened to invade Greenland, coerced Spain, breached once again the deal with new tariffs, and just this week threatened to raise energy prices for Europe in the wake of an illegal war that they started and which already spiked prices globally. Il faut le faire, we say in French. Their strategy is crystal clear. They want to pressure all EU institutions, also the European Parliament, to roll over and just pass the deal. And let's not be naive. More Trump coercion and chaos will come. And that is exactly why we say today, no free pass, no blank check. We do not approve the deal today. We vote for a strong Parliament's position, which has been clearly outlined by our rapporteur, Bernd Lange, with clear guarantees. We will only act once the US honours its commitments, including bringing the tariffs on steel down. That Europe can respond when these commitments are broken, and that our industry is protected against new chaos. And that is why we today support this mandate, because it draws clear conditions and gives Europe the tools to suspend, to react, and to protect itself. But let there be no misunderstanding, and I approach our Commission. There will be no final approval by our group if these conditions are not fully met. Colleagues, to conclude, we will not be intimidated. We will not be bullied into a bad deal. And today we show our citizens that this European Parliament stands up for their interest and for our Europe. And I urge Council and Commission to finally show some courage and do the same. Thank you.
Thank you. And now on behalf of Patriots for Europe, our colleague Terč.
Good morning, Commissioner. Vox will not be involved in the anti-US phobia in this House. We need a stable trade agreement with the United States. There is no real alternatives to this transatlantic pact. We can just fall into the arms of China, as lots of people here want. That would just be suicide. Unfortunately, what von der Leyen has set out as a deal with the US cannot be approved. 15% on tariffs, whereas it's zero for others, would just be another nail in the coffin for the primary sector. President Trump knows how to negotiate. He always has his country's interests in mind. This Commission and President von der Leyen doesn't know how to negotiate, nor are they interested in the interests of European nations. As we always see, there's the ineptitude of our negotiators, and this is something which is paid for by European societies. As always happens, this has been seen once again. We need to change the program we have. We need to get the bureaucrats out of their offices, or we will end our societies. Those who say they're against the US will vote in favour of this agreement, so that they can say they can maintain their agreement with Ursula von der Leyen. Yes, we want an agreement with the US, as we want an agreement with Latin America as well. But the options being set out by the European Commission are not sufficient. Agreeing for this agreement is applauding the ineptitude of Ursula von der Leyen, and we will not be involved in that.
Now, our colleague Polato on behalf of the ECR.
Thank you, President. In this hemicycle, when it comes to the United States, we've got different opinions. We are aware of that. On the one hand, there is ideology, there are controversies, there's criticism, and there's anti-Americanism that's from the 1970s. On the other hand, you've got us, who want to work on what unites us more than what divides us. And we have to give out a message that's a sign of commitment that will give certainty to our companies and workers. Yes, have your ideology, your controversies and criticisms. We've already seen that. We saw that with the Green Deal, and it doesn't get us anywhere. It doesn't consolidate relationships, and it doesn't boost development. We want the vote on these agreements to be a sign that we're starting over. We want to have a new phase of our relationship with the United States, who are still a key partner for trade and security in Europe. Over the next few months, after this vote, there will be time to review things, including during the negotiations, and look at the most critical parts of the agreements. But anyone who wants to instrumentalise this vote or slow it down, well, they need to remember that companies don't have time to lose, especially at this very delicate phase that we're going through. We need certainty and stability. That is the way we want to go. That is what companies and workers are asking of us. That is the right choice for Europe. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, colleague Karlsbro on behalf of Renew Europe.
President, Commissioner Dombrovskis, colleagues. Transatlantic trade relations are important, but they must be built on mutual respect. We have not forgotten Greenland, threats, and the blackmail. One could hardly say that a Turnberry Agreement is balanced, but we are ready to move forward if it can provide stability and predictability. As the United States don't deliver, it's up to us, Europeans, to put our own safeguards in place to protect ourselves from chaos. This is exactly what the Parliament is doing today through this vote, by Trump proving our position on the Turnberry tariff agreements. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on behalf of the Greens is colleague Cavazzini. You have the floor.
Lieber Herr Kommissar,
Commissioner, Trump's tariffs are illegal, and we should not be focusing on this deal. And I would prefer that the Commission had moved further in the negotiations last year and would use the anti-coercion instrument which is available to us. I find it very problematic that the EU in the joint statement has supported LNG imports, but I can say very clearly we will reject this deal. We should not become independent on fossil fuels from the US. This deal is bad, but given we need a plan for the economy at times of uncertainty, we can improve this agreement, and people have already said this. We, as the European Union, have more cards in our hand with this mandate. I would like to see the German government support the EU Parliament's position in the trilogue, and that's something we need to focus on clearly. Thank you very much.
And the next speaker is colleague Shirdewan on behalf of the Left in the European Parliament. You have the floor.
Thank you much, President, and thank you to Mr. Lange for giving us an idea of your taste in music. And now we have in the middle of this debate and the blackmail of Trump vis-à-vis Europe, and that prompts me to think about an entirely different album, a metal album, Master of Puppets. This is a case where European states are forced to buy a lot of liquid natural gas from the US and other substances, and new dependence of the US. I think it's a complete madness, and European companies are going to be obliged to invest massively in the US rather than in Europe. It's like paying a ransom. And the High Court in the US has itself said that there was no good legal basis for this agreement. And Trump made it clear yesterday that he has absolutely no intention to honor the tariff part of this. Trump doesn't care about data protection. He's attacking Mexico. He's threatening Greenland. So even though von der Leyen has agreed to this, I don't think we can take this agreement seriously, and we can't ever approve a deal of this type.
Thank you. And the next speaker is our colleague Sherba.
The transatlantic relations continues to thrive. Our ambition is to expand economic cooperation. Every day, $4.5 billion worth of goods and services are traded between the EU and the US. It is the basis for extensive cross-border investment and supports millions of jobs. 2025 was a turbulent year for transatlantic relations and economy. Despite this, we achieved a record trade turnover. The Turnberry deal averted a full-blown trade war. With today's vote, let's give it a chance. Europe and the US remain by far each other's most important source of overseas affiliate income. Transatlantic commerce works, and this dense web of deep connections remains a strength. Poland is leading by example. Our security cooperation translates into economic partnerships, in particular in the defense and energy sectors. But Europe has to negotiate firmly, and stronger Europe is a stronger US ally. Thank you very much.
Dziękuję bardzo. A teraz And the next speaker is our colleague Boccaccini.
These unjustified tariffs issued by Trump are not only putting our trade at risk, but our entire relationship across the Atlantic. We've got a choice here. We could just have the European companies and workers pay the price, or we can respond and we can improve the agreement during the negotiations, and we can defend our European interests. We need to have a practical response here, and we can do that from the Parliament. And there has been some ambiguous behaviour by some of the parties and some of the governments, but thank you to the new agreement, the agreement could be interrupted or could just not start if there is a threat from the United States to the relationships that we've seen here when it comes to the derivatives on steel and aluminium. For us, we have non-negotiable conditions here, and it's a simple point here. Either the EU makes itself respected here and gaining credibility, or it just leaves others to decide for us. Thank you.
And now, the next speaker is our colleague Bay, please.
Monsieur le Président, l'accord signé par Madame von der Leyen.
President, the agreement signed by Ms. von der Leyen requires us to accept a number of concessions to the advantage of the US. taking tariffs off US goods, and then we have 15% tariffs for European products. That is going to lead to a disadvantage for the European market, and there's no serious guarantees of reciprocity and protection. All of this is happening in a perfectly well-known context. The US has continued to use the tariff weapon. And what does the Commission do faced with that? Well, it comes up with commitments that weakens our situation, weakens our income from tariffs, and weakens a number of our sectors. It's not so much the Trump administration that we should be pointing the finger at, but rather the lack of competence in the von der Leyen Commission. We're being told that we have to accept that the concession in order to maintain the transatlantic relationship, but accepting doesn't mean caving in. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And the next speaker is our colleague Kelleher. Please take the floor.
In a very volatile world, and particularly in a volatile relationship between the United States and the European Union, it is critically important that we play our part in trying to stabilise that relationship. And while we do hear ideological debates inside in this chamber from the left and from the right in the context of President Trump, I think we should be looking at it through the eyes of workers and businesses across the European Union. They need certainty in a very uncertain time. 4.6 billion is traded daily across the Atlantic in goods and services. And anything that gives confidence to this particular trade agreement, I very much welcome. I also believe that we have to be firm in saying to President Trump and the US administration that respect is critically important in this particular trade agreement. We have to have confidence that they stand by their word as well. Time will tell, but in the meantime, we must play our part to ensure that we stand firm with regard to what was agreed in Turnberry, and that we insist from the United States perspective that they also honour the commitments with regard to Turnberry. On the issue of steel and aluminium, yes, there is need for us to continue to negotiate in those particular areas, but at the moment, certainty is what is required for businesses and workers.
Thank you. Closing HDI because there are already too many people anyway, so we might not be able to take all of you. Let me give the floor to Mr. Marsa Ibanez.
Hace 6 meses.
6 months ago, there was the first threat from Trump, and we were humiliated with the signing of this agreement, and we lost out on the tariffs. So we got to Europe down on its roof saying that there would be European investments to build fossil fuels and to buy fossil fuels and arms in the US. And this was all done on the premise of the basis of stability of this agreement. What's this agreement brought us? More threats, more blackmail, more instability, price increases, more legal uncertainty, and a feeling of complete impunity that Trump can do exactly what he wants. We have, kneeling down in front of an abuser, in front of a bully, is not the way to go. We need to stand up. We need to set out clear limits. We need to use the anti-coercion instrument. We need to invest in reindustrialization in Europe. We need to stop our dependence on fossil fuels. We need to have a mass investment in the green transition. So for coherence and dignity, we cannot agree with this agreement. Thank you.
Ďakujem.
Thank you. And the next speaker is our colleague De Masi.
Herr Präsident.
President, the European Union is suffering from Stockholm syndrome and not recognising the reality. The reality is Donald Trump is blackmailing us with punitive tariffs, and we're accepting 15% on, and we've got 0% on EU goods, and then he's got 50% on steel and aluminium, and we are just then also buying weapons from him and fracking gas, and he is also blackmailing us with the threat that we'll have less LNG, and I think that would be a basis for ending that agreement if we were to follow through in the Parliament. He's going to war illegally in Iran, and we're seeing what's happened with the war with Putin, and Trump is going to war against the country, and he is then actually suspending the sanctions against Russia. So we need to make sure that we're not further blackmailed by him. We need to have the instruments to deal with that. Anything else would just be giving up.
Thank you, Commissioner President. Businesses and families in Europe are going through times of extreme volatility. The price of gas and oil have spiked. We're seeing shares and markets in volatility, and this has impact on inflation as well. And faced with this uncertainty, we need to try and provide certainty and stability. We need stability in our trade agreements, and that we need to have nerves of steel and be pragmatic. We can't react with every change in the US to a change in our direction. We need to have an agreement which does guarantee a position which is beneficial for the EU compared with other exporters from all over the world. Now, when it's approved, we will continue to ensure that all commitments are being adhered to. Now is the time to be responsible. It's the time to support this trade agreement. Thank you very much.
Ďakujem. A teraz poprosím.
Thank you. And the next speaker is our colleague Győri.
Ladies and gentlemen, every day 4 billion euros worth of goods change hands between the United States and the European Union. This clearly demonstrates how vital a balanced partnership based on mutual respect is with them. However, last summer, Ursula von der Leyen struck a humiliating bargain with the US. She provided proof that Europe is weak and susceptible to blackmail. A deeply unequal agreement was reached, which is far from bringing mutual benefits. Where we previously paid 2 to 3% customs duties on our exports, we will now pay 15%, while the US brings in its industrial products duty-free. Why exactly did the Commission enter into this humiliating deal? So that America would continue to support Ukraine. Donald Trump represented America's interest, America first, while von der Leyen represented Ukraine first, rather than that of European citizens and businesses. Since then, of course, the US has pulled out of financing Ukraine. Now, only Europe continues to pour money into a hopeless war. At this point, only damage control remains, because European companies need predictability and a reduction in tensions. The Commission should finally pull itself together and learn from the American president how to effectively stand up.
Thank you. The next.
Trump, we've been patient in front of your erratic and despotic behavior. We've been patient when you started a war without knowing how to finish it. We've been patient when you used the trade policy as a weapon to take revenge and threaten countries and peoples who simply annoy you. We've been patient when you called us free riders and parasites. And we've been patient when your VP told us that in Europe democracy is failing. What? Come on. But now, of course, we cannot cut trade relationships with the United States, and we must provide certainty to our companies and citizens, so we have to move forward with the agreement on duties. But let me be really clear. We have suspended it twice. We are not afraid to suspend it again. The clauses and conditions are stronger, the suspension clause, the sunset clause, the safeguard on imports, and the sunrise clause. We are passionate Europeans. We are passionate pro-Europe politicians. We will be vigilant. We will never be idiotic servants of an autocratic leader. Thank you.
Grazie. A teraz
Thank you. And the next speaker is colleague Kruis.
Ja, dank voorzitter.
Thank you, President. Let me be clear from the outset. Did the European Commission negotiate badly? Yes. Is this deal better for the US than for Europe? Yes. Would we have preferred a zero-tariff deal? Yes, of course. But the European Union simply doesn't have the cards to force a better deal. We have empty hands and we're tongue-tied. The real question is, how do we get here? Because we've made the wrong choices, smothering bureaucracy. We've have an energy policy run by weirdos and windmill nuts, an economy where companies don't build but pack their bags. We don't need political theatre. We need predictability in order to invest. That's what our companies need. Voting against sounds very brave, but it leads to escalation and trade war with the US and major economic damage. And the PVV is not going to be involved in this. It's not a good deal, but it's the least bad option. Therefore, we're in favour of realism for our companies and for the Dutch economy. Thank you.
Now we come to Catch the Eye, and I decided that I'd give it a try, and because many of you, but everybody gets the floor, but I'm going to be extremely strict in time. So let me start with colleague Stier.
Thank you, Chair. Predictability is the key word here in this debate and also for the vote that will follow. Even the biggest critic of this agreement think that with this agreement we will have also more predictability. But what would happen if the agreement were to be rejected? From the left, we heard a lot of criticism, not only of the agreement, but of Trump's administration. But even that part of the left, which should show responsibility because they're either in power or because they're part of the majority here, they will vote for. From the right, they praise Trump, but they will vote against. And those in power will abstain, but their governments in the council voted for. Why? Well, we need predictability in this time of turbulence, and this is why we need to support this agreement.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Ms. Grappini.
Domnule președinte, domnule comisar, stimați colegi.
President, colleagues, Commissioner, this deal with the US is obviously necessary, but I believe that an agreement means mutual respect between partners. Increasing taxes 5 times from 5 to 50% and imposing tariffs on steel and aluminium is unacceptable. So I'm thinking, what would have happened if this deal had been signed as the Commission had first proposed it? Commissioner, it's unacceptable for you to disregard what happens on the European market. Thankfully, the European Parliament is here and can impose very clear requirements. This agreement can work on the long term only if there is reciprocity and respect between the two parties. And yes, I agree that these tariffs could highly impact the metal industry. The impact would be deleterious. So, Commissioner, please respect the Parliament's position. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker is colleague Tinkinen.
Arvoisa puhemies.
Niillä on kanava päällä.
Now.
Well, let's try again.
Vasemmisto yrittää estää Eurooppaa menestymästä. En tiedä.
I don't know in how many ways the left is trying to prevent Europe from succeeding. I don't know. I lost count a long time ago. But they have always had one favorite subject, and that's blocking US trade. When we buy American fighter jets, the left shouts no. When we make a trade deal with Trump, the left again shouts no. And when Finland recently agreed on a gigantic icebreaker deal in which we sell icebreakers to the United States, this didn't seem to sit well with the left either. The left was even calling for an exit from that deal. Apparently, we're not even allowed to sell our expertise when the counterpart is the USA. What do you think in the left? Shall we soon ban watching American films too? Like in the Soviet times, whose doctrines you still seem to follow in your US policy. But remember, the USA won, the USSR lost. Don't you think that it's time for you to change the camp too?
Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Gozzi.
President, dear colleague Commissioner, you say the deal is a deal. Yes, but it takes two to tango. We can be a reliable partner, but the trust is not there if the other partner does not practice what we preach, and Trump does not. We can make effort to clarify the legal framework, but the framework falls if the other partner is in a legal limbo, and Trump is in a legal limbo. We can, under certain conditions, accept a bad trade deal as the Turnberry deal is, in exchange of stability and predictability. But Trump has been erratic and unpredictable with us on trade, on geopolitics, like on our digital legislation. We must always protect our sovereign choice as Europeans, and Trump pushed the big tech and has declared a war against our digital legislation. For all this reason, and while commending the big effort made by Mr. Lange and the shadow rapporteur, I think we should not move ahead with the Turnberry deal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Mr. Tegiop.
Thank you, Chair. We are strongly committed to a good and stable relationship with the US. That won't change. But as Volt, we cannot support this deal. It's enough. Sometimes, when your partner crosses a line, you have to tell them. And the US, or rather Trump and his cabinet, have been crossing lines with Europe for a while now, on a daily basis. We have to stand up. A good trade deal should work for both sides, and this one simply doesn't. And it's rather a product of coercion and not of negotiation. Europe should not concede under pressure, but negotiate from strength and protect our own interests. Let's get back on the negotiation table and make a deal that works for both.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Mr. Andriukaitis.
Thank you, Chair. Dear Commissioner, dear Valdis, we all know about what we are just speaking. Of course, recent United States behavior and events have only added chaos and uncertainty. The threat to invade Greenland, coercion against Spain, the Supreme Court ruling declaring the reciprocal tariffs illegal, immediately followed by new tariffs, threats towards European legislation, and so on. Of course, we all know very well that we need to now have such predictable answer, and European Parliament proposal now, Bert Lange report is excellent example to protect us and to improve those six C's. It means very important toolkit, which should be used by Commission also. And please keep in mind, Commissioner, we are not all speaking about steel and aluminium, about biotech, about medicines, about pharma, about our research and possibility to invest. And this is very important time now to defend our sovereignty, not only keeping in mind steel, but research and investment also.
Thank you. And the next speaker is Mr. Sieber.
Liebe Menschen Europas, was mich immer mit am meisten...
Dear people of Europe, the thing that amuses me most here is the mental flexibility. Many of our colleagues show that. And you've got people and they say that we should be open to Putin again, that those sanctions against Russia should be dropped, and then they want us just to have a hard line against Trump. Those are the same people who stand up there and who say that they defend the little man and get worked up about the petrol prices. Now they want us to drop this agreement so that we can have more price rises. Is it a good deal? No. Is it a deal we want? No. Can we in any way depend on Trump? No. Is he crazy? Yes. I think that the best thing that we could do is to sign the deal and to then implement it in a way that's good for us, because anything else would be with Trump.
Thank you. And the next speaker is colleague López Aguilar.
Thank you, President. Comisario.
Commissioner, it's true that the relationship with the US, the transatlantic alliance, is important for our businesses. It's our leading trade partner. It's also true that the United States and Trump are not the same thing. The United States existed before and will exist afterwards. But it was Trump at Turnberry, Trump on his golf course, who tried to impose on the EU via President von der Leyen a humiliating deal. If von der Leyen accepted this, then it means that she does not representatives. We need to look at the treaties, but this is not the final word on this. This is a position that builds the Commission and Council into a position where we need to ensure legal certainty and reciprocity. Either respect is mutual or it doesn't exist. So either we guarantee legal certainty and reciprocity, or the European Parliament will vote against this and reject this deal. Thank you.
Gracias. A na záver Catch the Eye poprosím.
Thank you. And to conclude Catch the Eye, the last speaker is Mr. Dostal.
It is no coincidence. We should not approve this. Our tariffs are 0%. Theirs are 15%. That's no agreement. That's capitulation. Let us not put a thumb up to the vassal promise by Ursula that we will buy gas for 750 billion and weapons for 600 billion from Trump. No way. Trump is threatening Greenland, Spain. We should be adopting sanctions, not trade agreements. It is Trump's illegal war against Iran, which deprived us of gas from the Gulf area. It was the Americans who were after Germany due to Nord Stream, which then happened to explode. Who believes this is coincidence? I will be very happy to sell off the Czech national treasures to those who can promise us fair deals. We do have better partners in the world than the 300 million Americans there are. Let us show Trump our strength, then we get better conditions. Thank you.
A teraz poprosím za komisiu pána.
And now on behalf of the Commission, Commissioner Dombrovskis.
Mr. Chair, honourable members, thank you for your interventions this morning. We take note and appreciate a wide spectrum of views in this House. This is not an easy debate, but I welcome that there is an overall recognition of the importance of EU-US trading relationship, and that moving ahead is the best step we can take for our citizens, workers and firms. Now, as we approach the vote shortly, I would once again underline that we recognise the validity of the points which have been taken up by the European Parliament, and that we are ready to work constructively in the trilogues to see how to address them in the best manner possible. At the same time, we will continue to engage with our US counterparts, raising our concerns where necessary, working together on issues of mutual concern where possible, and laying foundations for further and future engagement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. And to conclude the debate, the last speaker is the rapporteur, Mr. Lange.
Yeah, thanks a lot, dear colleagues. Thanks a lot also for the support for my report. And perhaps at the end of this debate, I will quote another song, famous song, I'm a believer. And yes, I'm a believer in the power of the European Parliament. We have the power to secure a system which is predictable and stable in the future. And therefore, we need 6S. We need a sunrise clause. We need suspension clause, clear guarantees. We need a sunset clause to have an assessment after a period of time. We need really good safeguards. And we need also a clarity that steel is a steel and not a motorcycle. And of course, we need a strong involvement of the European Parliament in this whole exercise. And therefore, yeah, please support in the vote at 11 o'clock the report from the Intercommittee with a strong majority. And I'm really clear that with such a support, we will have a strong mandate for the negotiations with the Council, and this will lead to a meaningful outcome. So let's stick together. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for this musical, almost rock team.
The debate is concluded and the vote will be held in 1 hour. The next item on the agenda is the report by Ms. Riedel and Ms. Bentel, Global Gateway, Past Impacts and Future Orientation.
Na úvod rozpravy poprosím nejprve paní poslankyni Riedel.
Monsieur le Vice.
Vice President, Commissioner Hildegard. I'm very pleased to be able to present this with my colleague this morning, this first report on the Global Gateway. Global Gateway is a unique strategy for investing in infrastructure around the world by Europe to try and compete with the new Silk Road project from China. It's an initiative which tries to use public funds, development banks, and also private funds. There's slogans which were highlighted, talking about huge and colossal amounts of funds. Our report notes the fact that Global Gateway is still lacking transparency. The impacts aren't really known. It's a bit of a black box. We note honestly that the Global Gateway project is becoming at the heart of our external diplomacy. We're seeing a world marked by geopolitical rivalry, and we need to try and find our way to exist. But why, and to whose benefit? There's a gap between the ambition set out by the Global Gateway and real guarantees. We know that Global Gateway funds projects in a whole range of different areas, but we want Global Gateway to be a true alternative for Russian, US or Chinese investments. The Global Gateway governance is opaque at times. Eligibility criteria are not really well known, and the impacts for local populations are not highlighted. Our report highlights one key point. We cannot be a true alternative to Russia or Chinese investment if we are just investing investments and partnerships. That we need to have these partnerships which are on an equal footing. We need to have quality relationships with our partners, and we need to have credible projects. We want public data. We want serious impact assessments. We want real consultations with local authorities and civil societies. We also want instruments which stop environmental damage and human rights violation. There is no traceability. Without this traceability, there will be no trust. We need to be exemplary with our investments. No infrastructure project is neuter. Yes, they can create jobs, but they can also lead to a huge amount of negative impacts as well. That's why in our report we are calling for a more demanding approach to look at added local value at an added local level, at an SME level. Are quality jobs really being created? Is training being delivered? Global Gateway needs to not just be in support of a European value chain, it also needs to support local economies and local capacities in partner countries. Now, finally, I'd like to say that for women and girls, and Global Gateway also needs to support them. Feminist diplomacy is a guarantor of stability and prosperity. Global Gateway will in the future be at the heart of the economic reality and geopolitical reality for the EU. It will be part of our external policy.